non vedremo Bitcoin raggiungere i 200.000 dollari tanto presto. E se sei un investitore in Bitcoin e in criptovalute, questo potrebbe essere uno dei video più importanti che tu abbia mai visto. E se alla fine lo troverai davvero utile, lasciami un bel like iscrivendoti al canale con la campanella e magari condividilo con i tuoi amici. Per il momento andiamo a scoprire subito di cosa si tratta e lo vediamo dopo la sigla. Benvenuto o benvenuta nel canale del Marchese del Cripto, dove si parla solo pane al pane e vino al vino. Prima di iniziare bisogna fare una premessa: questo video tratterà temi di ESG che, se non sai di cosa si tratta, ti lascio qua sopra il link al video che ho fatto la settimana scorsa riguardo questo aspetto. Ti consiglio, prima di proseguire con la visione di questo, di dare un'occhiata a quel video. Seconda premessa: in questo video farò vedere un'intervista di Kevin O'Leary. Se non sai chi sia, ne parleremo fra poco. Questa intervista è stata presa da un altro canale YouTube di uno youtuber conosciuto come Peter McCormack. Il nome del canale è What Bitcoin Did e ti lascio qua sotto in descrizione il link a questo video qualora tu voglia vedere per intero tutta l'intervista. Nella sua intervista originale tratta temi anche come il real estate, tratta temi legati all'economia globale. Nel mio caso specifico ho preso solo e esclusivamente le parti che riguardano Bitcoin e le criptovalute. Nel video ti ho inserito la traduzione in italiano fatta col software automatico. Ad ogni modo credo che risulti comprensibilissima. Bene, adesso prima di iniziare è il caso che ti presenti in breve Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary è nato il 9 luglio del 1954 in Canada ed è un uomo d'affari, uno scrittore, un politico e anche un presentatore televisivo. Ha iniziato la sua prima attività come produttore televisivo insieme a due ex compagni di college ed ha fondato la Special Event Television. Ma la vera fortuna e bravura di Kevin O'Leary fu nel 1986, quando insieme ad altri due soci ha fondato la SoftKey. La società si occupava di sviluppare e distribuire software per i primi personal computer, Windows e Macintosh. E grazie alla sua capacità persuasiva ha convinto diverse aziende produttrici di stampanti ad integrare all'interno del loro hardware proprio il software SoftKey. Nel 1995 la sua azienda, la SoftKey, ha acquisito la The Learning Company, conosciuta come TLC, per 600 milioni di dollari e ne ha anche acquisito il nome. Quindi da quel momento in poi verrà chiamata TLC. Dopo questa acquisizione ci furono alti e bassi, ma nel 1999 arrivò la vera svolta. Infatti vendette la TLC alla Mattel per un importo superiore a 4 miliardi di dollari. Ad ogni modo, questa acquisizione da parte della Mattel fu definita come una delle operazioni più disastrose della storia recente. La Mattel perse diversi soldi, ci fu un crollo delle azioni, molti investitori fecero causa, hanno anche accusato la TLC di aver utilizzato alcuni trucchi contabili per diminuire le perdite ed aumentare le entrate trimestrali. Ad ogni modo si concluse con un nulla di fatto per O'Leary, mentre invece la Mattel, per chiudere la pratica, ha sborsato una cifra intorno ai 120 milioni di dollari. Allo stesso tempo fu anche un abile investitore, infatti nel 2003 ha investito nella Storage Now Holding un importo complessivo pari a 500.000 dollari, rivenduto poi nel 2007, quindi 4 anni dopo, per un importo superiore ai 4 milioni di dollari. Nel 2008 ha fondato l'O'Leary Fund Inc., in pratica una società di fondi comuni di investimento, e il patrimonio in gestione del fondo è cresciuto dal 2011 al 2012, ad esempio, passando da 400 milioni di dollari in gestione fino a superare il 1,2 miliardi. Poi gli arrivarono anche delle sanzioni nel 2014 che accettò di pagare perché aveva violato alcune disposizioni tecniche al Security Act. Poi ha aperto anche l'O'Leary Venture, in pratica una società privata di investimenti di capitale. Poi nel 2015 ha lanciato anche un ETF attraverso lo Share Investment, una divisione del suo fondo di investimento O'Leary Fund Management LP, di cui è naturalmente presidente. Il suo cavallo di battaglia è proprio la diversificazione, infatti diversifica i suoi investimenti sia in commodities che in azioni che in criptovalute, insomma ha un pochino le mani in pasta ovunque. Poi nello stesso tempo continua a fare il conduttore televisivo, scrive anche dei libri, ma soprattutto adesso ha contatti con grandissimi fondi, gestisce grandissimi patrimoni ed ha contatti con una marea di aziende big del settore. Ora, capire se il suo operato sia stato pulito o meno non spetta a me, una cosa è chiara però, con i soldi ci sa fare, li sa far fruttare, insomma, quando si muove sa bene in che direzione spostarsi. Ora, conosciuto Kevin O'Leary vi lascia questa intervista, come detto fatemi sapere qua sotto nei commenti che cosa ne pensate. Quindi mettetevi comodi e iniziamo.
Was interesting, but it wasn't where institutions were going. And I serve the institutional market and the foreign, pension plans and sovereign funds, and I talk to them every day. And so what I'm interested in doing is understanding where they're going because I'm a service entity for them. I index. What's interesting now about crypto, I don't consider crypto Bitcoin or Ethereum. Okay. Yes, they were the pioneering assets, but I'm considering crypto as the 12th sector of the S&P. It hasn't been declared that yet, but I think that's where we're going. And so when you talk about running a mandate like I do for institutional clients or institutional mindset, they say to themselves, okay, in a normal world where I understand each of the 11 sectors of the S&P, I may allocate the largest I would allocate would be 20%, let's say, to technology. That's generally the max in a mandate. I'm now dabbling in crypto as if it was the 12th. So that means I don't need a mandate to do that. I'm doing that because I'm able to get my compliance department to agree on certain coins, tokens, assets, but they have no interest in just buying Bitcoin. I get Bitcoin. That's one asset. It's just like when you say, I'm going to have 20% in tech. There's 1,000 companies to choose from to build that position. So for me now to actually get into crypto, I need multiple positions because I'm mandated to have diversification. So yeah, I own Bitcoin. Yes, I have some Ethereum. I have some Litecoin. I have some USDC, but there's much more coming. And I'm at 3% right now, waiting in a mandate. That's not a lot. I'm on my way to 7% by year end. That's a lot. And that's starting to be where I consider myself a participant in this market. But I'm having to do it different than maybe you or Pomp or a lot of the guys that were pioneers. I don't have the option to be a cowboy. I can't do that. I have three problems on that front. Number one, I have to get my internal compliance officer to agree. Number two, I have to get my external auditor to sign the audited statements that then turn into reports to the regulators in every jurisdiction that I participate in. I cannot afford to be offside for 1 second. But the upside is that there's trillions of dollars of the people I service that want to do the same thing. If we could just get the regulator on side to tell us what the rules are, it's like football. You can't play football if you don't know the rules. We need the rules. Then you're going to get a massive allocation to crypto. No, when it comes to crypto, because of the compliant and the regulations and where we're at, I don't put other people's money into crypto mandates. I'm very fortunate to have my own operating companies, multiple operating companies that I control in the case where this crypto is 100% control. So I am allowed, but I have to be compliant anyways, because when you have a compliance department, it's because you've been able to grow business. I have multiple investments in financial services companies, many of them which are reporting and regulated. So I can't be offside. It's because I'm a shareholder in these companies. Let's say I'm talking to a sovereign fund, all right? Let's say, and they have 500 billion, and they want to deploy into crypto for the first time, and they're going to put a small weighting, 1%. The reason they haven't done it yet is not because they're having a debate about whether they want to. They want to, but they have a compliance department that includes an ESG committee, which determines which assets get to the investment committee first, because every single asset is viewed with that particular sovereign fund by the merits of sustainability. And so just, at Bitcoin 2021, there was a huge debate going on. Elon Musk was involved. I'd made some statements about it because I'd learned from the pensions that they weren't going to get involved in it because it was not ESG compliant. The Chinese were burning coal to make electricity, to mine and get awarded coins. That was a nightmare. And so the reason Bitcoin is still not yet a institutional product is we have not got around this issue of sustainability. Because when I disclosed that I had 3% weighting in Bitcoin and Ethereum, the first call I got were from all the guys that I know in the pension plans saying, Do you know that those are sustainable or not? Do we own them or just you? Because we can't own them. And that's when I learned about the problem. And it remains today. And the reason I say it's not a problem, it's an opportunity. If we solve this in the Bitcoin asset community, whatever you want to call it, you're going to see $1 trillion worth of fiat currencies go into Bitcoin as an asset, just like real estate. And I think you want to talk about $100,000, $200,000, $250,000 coin price, it has to solve this problem. It won't get there till then. When you meet an ESG committee, okay, that's sitting on top of the investment committee of any institution, and they even have ethics committees now because they don't want to invest in places where human rights are abused. There's all kinds of these filters coming in. You can have a discussion about how many fairies dance on the head of a pin with an ESG committee, but it doesn't matter if they don't agree. And so what they want to know is, are hydrocarbons being burnt in the creation of the energy used to get a coin awarded? All right? Yes or no. Binary. Yes or no. And you can't give them the theory about how it's good that there's more efficiency being built into the models for miners and their stacks and efficiencies and all that stuff. They don't give a shit. What they want to know, are you burning any hydrocarbons? If your answer is, oh, well, sort of, kind of, sort of, they just can't invest. I do believe over time we're going to solve this problem with the idea that miners, the next generation of miners, are going to say, look, they'll go to the ESG committees first and say, I'm going to put up a gig, all right, of mining capacity. I'm going to put it up in West Texas. I'm going to use solar and wind when it becomes available. And I'll build it out 250, at a time. And I want you to give me 150 million, and I'll give you equity in my operation. That's coming. And that way, and the investment committee says, what is this, an infrastructure deal? And that's what it is. If you can show that you can get 11 to 17% annualized return, which you could if you believed in Bitcoin, you would write that check for $500, $600 million. That's the snack bracket of these funds. But they can't do it unless it's compliant with ESG. I think you can blame Larry Fink's letter each year. And I think he's a genius because he sets the mandate for the global consideration at the board level of ESG. And it basically sets the rules by which they should govern their companies regarding sustainability and climate change and all kinds of other issues that Larry believes in. Now, you can ignore it at your peril because if he puts a position on in your company, he's going to be one of the largest shareholders, period. And so he's on a mission, and I think it's a noble one. He himself has to struggle with the definition of what ESG is, but he has changed the tonality of the S&P 500 in just 36 months. It's global. So he will basically set a tone that disfavors non-sustainable companies and favors those that are sustainable, and they're rewarded with higher price earnings ratios. Same thing for Bitcoin. It will have a higher PE when you can say that coin was mined sustainably. And I think that's why we're talking about these massive new opportunities. So if you're an owner of Bitcoin and you want to see $100,000 price on that coin in the near future, you have to address this issue. I bet you no more than 4% of institutions globally even touch it. They don't give a shit. They're not going to. And I look at my board, and I look at trillions of dollars of institutional money flowing around in assets that have been approved for decades, and none of it's Bitcoin, none of it. And Fink said the same thing just 3 months ago. He said, we don't give a shit about Bitcoin. He didn't say that. He just said, nobody asked us about it because no one's going to buy it. The thing's not ESG compliant. Bingo. That's the opportunity. He just set the rules. But I don't think Bitcoin's ever going to be centralized. It's going to be regulated, but never centralized. And I think to the fact that, as we started this dialogue earlier, I, like you, believe in it as an asset. I own it. I've never traded it. I'm never going to sell my coin. It's to me, it's the building I used to own in Boston that I sold for cash. I mean, it's sort of, it's something that I think over time will beat the indices and hedge me against inflation. It's similar to gold, which I also own, but maybe in a better performing way. But they want to figure out what are the rules and when will the regulator approve it, because it will be allocated. And I think when you're talking about $500 billion sovereign fund and they allocate 1%, you're talking real money. And you as an owner of a coin are going to vastly be worth a lot more than before their participation. So well, we can have this debate about the community and moral obligations and centralization, decentralization. But if you were able to get the institutions just a 1% allocation, that's $1 trillion worth of buying. So now you're talking about $1 million Bitcoin. That's why I'm in the game. And so I'm happy to have this dialogue saying, everybody wake up and understand, smell the fucking roses. It's there. The opportunity's there. You got to get on the bandwagon to solve this problem for them. Then what happens is the auditor, the external auditor, can at any time go and check that they're compliant, because at the end of the quarter, they're going to be asked to sign off on the statements as an independent auditor. And those signed off statements then go through the reporting systems to the regulator. Now that infrastructure exists everywhere, in Switzerland, in Germany, in France. That does not exist anywhere for crypto. There is no infrastructure inside of that institution to deal with, okay, I'm going to buy $10 million of USDC and I'm going to write contracts for 30, 60, and 90 days on a loan. I'm going to pull in 5.5% interest and paid back in USD and I go back to fiat. You can do that with, Circle if you wished. There is no infrastructure to do that. So what happens is, if you're a XYZ fund company and you are managing money for institutions like a university or state, they won't give you a dime until their compliance people go see your system and that you're 100% compliant and you're able to report to them. What's missing in the crypto universe right now is the investment in compliance infrastructure, so that I'll give you my example. In my own operating company where I have to be compliant, I say, look, we just sold that commercial real estate. We've got a lot of cash. Our cash desk says we can only make 21 basis points. I'm going to buy a few $1 million. Let's just start with that. Let's just start with a small amount in the mandate, and I'll show you how it works with USDC. And my compliance officer said, no, we are not doing that. I said, why not? Because how are we going to report that? We have no way to market that. How do we know? It's hybrid. It's risky. The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no. And I said, no, we got to solve this. We're not beating inflation on the cash we just brought into the operation. We just sold real estate, and now in our mandate, we're losing money every month because we're getting 21 basis points and inflation's 2%. And my own compliance officer, that I pay that person, I pay them, but they're arm's length from me, said, no, not doing it. I said, well, I'm going to call the auditor. I call my own auditor, and they said, no, not a chance. Are you out of your mind? We're never going to sign those statements. It took me 6 months to just do the first $1 million. I mean, just to get that as an experiment, to just show them it can be done, because there's no infrastructure. And so it's very easy for you and I to just open up a wallet and buy stuff. But if you want to play with the big boys, you got to solve this problem. And so that's the noise I'm making. I said it on the panel today. Jeremy was there. Sam was there from FTX. And I got to disclose I'm a spokesperson for FTX and an investor with him now. And so the reason I did that is I want to use his infrastructure for compliance. He's got the biggest global infrastructure ever. And he can be compliant with my own auditors and my regulators in the various countries I operate in. So, I look at this as a huge opportunity, but everybody thinks it's ready to go. It's not ready to go. There's much work to be done to make it so that some guy running 100 billion says, okay, put 10 billion into DAI or put it into USDC just for the overnight. And not have a red light blow up in the compliance department saying, what the hell is that? What is that thing? You're non-compliant. And so when I see these companies emerging, I think we're at 29 billion of USDC now. So there's people playing in it. 29 billion sounds like a lot of money. It's nothing. It's nothing in the global context.